Okay, we'll call the meeting in order of the Newman City Council and Redevelopment Agency of April 24th, 2007. Please stand for the pledge and the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads. Thank you for bringing us together this evening. Help this council make the right decisions for the citizens of Newman. Amen. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Caton?
Present.
Councilmember Kelly?
Present.
Councilmember Creepaw?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martinez?
Present.
Mayor Fantasia?
Present. Declarations of conflicts of interest. We have any this evening. Ceremonial matters. We have none. Items from the public, non-agenda items. If anybody in the audience would like to bring something before us that is not on the posted agenda, now would be the time. See no one. Agenda items, if you'd like to comment on something that's on the agenda this evening, please raise your hand and come to the podium, state your name and address, and try to keep your comments to under 3 minutes. Public hearings, we have two this evening. The first one is adopt resolution number 2007, next number. Resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. The item you have before you is a code enforcement issue. As stated in the staff report, abatement notices for property maintenance were sent out to several properties, 62 of them. The notice informs the property owners of all the nuisance abatement procedures, their option and their right to object at tonight's public hearing. Just prior to the start of the meeting, I distributed out the list of the property owners that failed to abate, which were 26 out of the 62. Staff recommendation is that you declare the existence of public nuisance for these properties under ordinance number 95-4. Any questions?
Questions for Ernie? Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time. Would anybody like to comment on these abatement issues? Is anybody, any property owners here this evening that are on this list that like to comment or see no one? I will close the public hearing and ask for some direction.
Move to adopt resolution number 2007, next number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And our second public hearing this evening is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2007, next number, amends pertaining parking.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. At the April 10th council meeting, we conducted the first reading of this ordinance change, and basically what we're looking at doing is adopting an ordinance change to Title 10, Chapter 4, Section 50 of our municipal code regarding making municipal code violations be handled by resolution instead of by ordinance, except those that happen to be on Highway 33 or in-street, which by ordinance have to be handled under an ordinance. So with that, I think you should open it up for a public hearing and see if there's any comments that need to be made by the public.
Any questions or comments from the council before I open the public hearing? That's what I'll do then, Chief. Open the public hearing. Would anybody like to comment on these amendments to the parking? See no one, I'll close the public hearing. Throw it back to the council for some direction.
I move for approval.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief. Item 9, consent calendar, approval of warrants, approval of minutes of the April 10th, 2007 regular meeting. I'd like to pull one of the warrant items, check number 032145 for Valley Parts. Anybody else have anything they'd like to pull? If not, some direction.
I move for adoption of the warrant calendar.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And Bob,
And-
Mayor Pro Tem, could you
Yes.
handle that one item?
Yes, and the one warrant, 032145, could I have some direction, please?
Move to approve.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Bob. Item 10, regular business. First item is adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for aquatics, community center schematic design, and master plan with NTD Stickler.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was continued from our last meeting at the request of the council so that we could get them further information with respect to the differences between a conceptual design and a schematic design, as well as cost differences if we went with a two-step process instead of a one-step process. And speaking with Tal Lewis, who is here with us tonight, what we're really looking at, the difference between breaking the two up between conceptual and then moving on to schematic is about $8,000, and again, in about a month's worth of time to start and stop, so about a 15% cost difference over the one step. So I think I didn't have it in front of me. Yeah, so you're looking at about $8,000, and we can talk a little bit more about that. As I put up the PowerPoint presentation, we're going to show you a little bit about conceptual design, and Tal Lewis is here as well. And if Tal, if you can come up to the podium and kind of help me along here. Again, this is Tal Lewis. Tal is going to be our project manager, or would be the project manager for NTD Stickler as part of this process here. So he's going to help me. He's worked on the project that we're going to see here and talk a little bit about conceptual design and then schematic. And then later in our next presentation, we actually go a little bit further. We go to development design and then construction drawing. So these projects really take a four-step process, and both Tal and our next consultants are going to tell you why. So Mike, if you could stop up. So here you kind of see a conceptual design, and it's a little bit of a bubble diagram. And Tal, you want to tell them a little bit about what we see
Sure.
here?
Mr. Mayor and Council, conceptual design begins with assessments and analysis of site and program. Conceptual design can help the community identify and define that program through any number of public outreach or community outreach programs, or just through assessment with the steering committee. It depends on how far along or how well defined the community has already established their program. Conceptual design begins to put pieces together so that you can understand how the project works. It begins to identify priorities of needs and of desires. It begins to define adjacencies for function. And it's a process, an evolutionary process through which these bubble diagrams begin to identify perhaps different options in the plan or design. With enough information to be able to make choices, to select one that might be more desirable than the other. And then those bubble diagrams are refined, begin to harden up, incorporate, let's say, less important priority items or spaces. But it begins to clearly define, I think a good way to put it is what you think you would like to have. From that, it rolls into a better defined arena, becomes schematic design. Now, the overall master plan that's developed is really developed during the programming and the conceptual process. It too gets some finishing touches during schematic design because we more clearly resolve the architectural issues or the specific design issues. And that then allows the master plan to continue to evolve. Michael, if I may, typically conceptual and schematic design is a fairly smooth flow. Understanding that there are always pauses, because at several stages within conceptual design, we will look to the community or to council for some resolution, some direction. acceptance or change of direction, whatever seems to fit. And then it's an evolving process, and it's a fairly fluid motion throughout the master planning, the conceptual, and the schematic design. Understand that typically with a schematic design contract or with a full services contract, there are always pauses between each phase. We don't continue until we're authorized. If a project stops, let's say at the end of conceptual stage, because there are some issues that have come up that need to be resolved, or just the community needs to digest what's going on a little longer, most contracts will allow 60 days within there. And if it takes longer than 60 days to pick the contract back up, depending on the circumstances, there may be some additional cost. If it takes 6 months or a year, certainly, because things change. But within that, if you break out the two, like Michael said, when you set the two completely apart, conceptual and schematic, the assumption is made that there's going to be 6 months to a year before you elect to go ahead with it. And so there's additional cost, and that's been defined. Based on the schedule we've discussed, I think it sounds like it may want to move quicker than that, but we'll have to see.
And you can see here, again, this is conceptual design here, and all you really have are some geometric shapes here, and they're aligned differently to show the configuration and the relationships between just the big massing areas.
Yeah, Michael, if I may, just out of two basic bubble diagrams and some massing diagrams that you saw earlier, this happens to be Truckee Parks and Rec, their new recreational and community center facility. From the conceptual, they were able to pick one direction for the design, and it's this linear pattern, or this linear layout with the central spine for circulation. And during the conceptual diagram stage, we were able to begin to define the actual size of spaces, and you see that beginning to be reflected here. Each one of these identifies a fairly specific square footage that's assigned to those spaces. So it's just another step in the evolution. Part of that process, part of the master planning, part of the conceptual design, really begins with site analysis. This again is Truckee, a very complex site because of several intersections, I-80, and an overflight pattern from Truckee Airport. So, and it introduced several new developments in the area, bike and pedestrian trails. So you have to start and begin to identify issues, likes, dislikes of any particular piece of property before you can begin to develop conceptual designs. Schematic has just taken the next step, taking these bubble diagrams, these massing diagrams, and putting hard lines on them. We really define materials, fenestration, hard line scale drawings, not detailed, but sufficient with elevation, section, and plan that we can develop a very realistic cost analysis. Up until then, you're working with pretty much ballpark or overall square footage numbers. At this point, we can assign specific values to it and really hone in on the budget. This is same facility. This is Brentwood, by the way. And it just shows that we're beginning to identify, again, actual dimensions, actual spaces, begin to look into, study, and resolve, or make decisions on finishes and materials. It applies to all levels of it. This is the site plan. We're identifying, again, materials, locations, specific, in this case, pool features, sizes and shapes. Really tighten up on actual parking numbers and circulation. So it's just really the next stage that begins to very accurately define what you're expecting. Schematic design is sufficient to be able to develop some fairly decent illustrations, three-dimensional. In this case, it's sitting on its site. And that's done at the schematic design level. These, again, with the exception of that little piece of Brentwood, because it more, I think, specifically related to the scope of part of your project. The rest of this was trucky. I think it was handy, and it illustrates some of the products you can expect from conceptual through schematic design.
And then we just, again, these are just the pictures that we showed again. This is Galt, California, and this is their 8-lane, 25-yard facility. As you can see, there's some cantilever covers there over some stands for people for competitions, swim competitions that are there. And speaking with aquatic design teams, in this particular case, it's Councilman Hunsaker. An 8-lane, 25-yard facility is really going to be able to accommodate Newman up and through a population of about 25,000 people. So that would be a sufficient size, especially with the large acreage that we're looking at doing. And we're looking at a 5-acre site that would accommodate West Side Stingrays and the 8 or 10 teams that are in the recreational league. It would accommodate the high school, and the high school having all of their teams come in at one particular time and have a competition there. These particular blocks here, the starting blocks where you see the number 5, those are removable. So at playtime, you just pull those out and set them on the side so you don't have tripping hazards and you don't have kids jumping on those and jumping on the other kids.
I can point out, too, that Galt was one of the first ones that opted to go with, at least in the north central valley, with the deck level gutter. It's something that's, the water level comes right to the surface of the deck. This grading here is the grading for the gutter, and it really provides a different level of tool for instruction and training, much more swimmer friendly. Brentwood, on the other hand, opted to drop that choice to the more typical deep gutter, where the water is 8 to 12 inches below the surface of the deck. They did that because of the winds that come through Brentwood, and it was considered to be a little less destructive on their pool cover. So there's a lot of choices to make.
Again, here we have Galt, and we've gone through these pictures before. I guess one of the things in the illustration that we were trying to show between conceptual and schematic is when we get to the point of being through a schematic, that is when the city really starts pushing for grant funding and really starts selling this project, because our costs are more hammered down, and we can go and say, you know, this is the ballpark for this. You know, conceptual, you're still looking at a big broader scope. It's more defined in terms of what our project is. So when we go to our congressman, we go to our state senator, we go to the county, we go to nonprofits, and we're seeking grant funding, and we're seeking funding for this particular project, and you have a little potential list of funding sources there. You know, you go in and you show them a real project, and you show them the layout of the project, you show them what the materials are, and you have a cost estimate that you're probably within a 10 to 15 or 20% cost range there, that you're really starting to hammer that thing down and say, this is really what that project's going to cost before you go to bid. So that way, that's why staff is recommending today that we go with option 2, which was the original option that we had requested, and that under the sum of $124,500. And then we do enter into a contract with NTD Stickler. Again, NTD is a firm that has demonstrated experience in this type of facilities, 3 award-winning projects in the valley alone, and we just think that they would provide us a first-class facility. So, with that, I can answer any questions that the council has. Tal's here as well; he can answer any questions as well.
I'm glad to see that Councilman Crinkle stepped up to the podium already to put some money down.
Wait a second.
That's great of him to do that. I would agree. Thank you,
I
Mike.
would be very happy to share that with you, Councilman.
You know, I mean, if I had your money, I'd
throw all of ours away.
Well, it's not going to be a very big party room. It's an insight, something we have that unfortunately you don't have.
Well, you
Jeez,
can read it, Joe.
man.
I'll pass on that.
No, thank you.
Is there any other questions?
I think that answers a lot of questions I had, and I think there's a lot of questions that came up at our last meeting as
Mhm.
well.
Kind of explain things a little better, exactly what we're getting for our extra $8,000.
And this is the group we're gonna work with. We approved the design committee last time, but this does not mean the public's gonna be absent from the process. The public will be involved in the process through conversations and meetings with the design group. We'll be presenting, at important milestones, we'll be presenting this information to the council to get their concurrence before we move on to the next step. Again, we're designing a complex here that, not unlike this one here, that brings the family back to the aquatic park. And I think the residents of Newman who have been here a long time and can recall in the opening years of the Newman plunge and how the families used to come into that facility, we're going to bring that back.
I'd like to add to
I don't remember
just-
that, but.
This frequently comes up. The firm are developing leadership in sustainable design. A number of us came out of the 70s where, through the energy crisis and all, it became big then, and some of us have really held on to that. So all of the aquatic facilities that we've done would all be highly ranked as far as sustainable design, where we use recyclable or recycled materials at high percentages. We use as much natural light, natural ventilation as practical to offset heating and cooling. So it's and it's something that's getting to be more and more important today, and I thought I'd assure you that it is important for us as well.
How many of your pools are heated and for what length of time are they usually heated?
They're all heated, which would be about 9 in the last 8 or 9 years. Typically the type of facility you see now combines a recreational competition pool. It's like the one you saw in the pictures of Galt, that has enough shallow water to facilitate beginning and training and instructional efforts, but it's deep enough for swimmers to be able to make their turns. It's 25 yards, so it's competitive. You can have meets. The second feature is an activity pool, and in the last few years we've been seeing more and more desire to get into what's Disney coined as a spray ground. These are fountains, basically, with all kinds of water features. They don't have standing water, so you don't have the same treatment requirements or heating requirements that you do with standing water. Typically, this type of pool operates during the summer. And what the communities find is that it gets enough activity, even at the rates that communities can charge their citizens. It makes money. It offsets its own cost and helps offset the cost of the competition pool. So it's a strong feature. But it only operates, planned operation, about 3 months out of the year. People that recreate in this kind of water tend to turn to other things as the days cool and come back to it as they warm up. So May through August, usually Memorial Day is the big grand opening, and it's heated for that length of time. After that, it's covered with insulating cover, and the amount of heat required just to maintain the pool. These pools are designed not to be drained. They actually last a lot longer with a lot less maintenance if they're left covered and full. But the amount of energy it takes to maintain that is minimal. The competition pool, sometimes some communities keep it open all year. Many close it in November and open up in March. So during that hard winter time, when the cost to maintain it would be the highest, it's covered with an insulating cover, and it's like turning your thermostat down to 45 or 50 in your house. keeps things from being damaged in your house, but keeps your energy bills minimal.
Are these types of pools also able to be heated by solar?
Oh, yes, yeah. And that's driven pretty much by your climate. Where we are, just north and east of Sacramento, it's marginal. This year would have been a great year. But in most years, our cycle of weather just keeps it right on the edge of being worth building and maintaining. Pools that we have further south, of course, into the desert and all, are very strong candidates for both solar voltaic and solar water heated. But there are other things. Galt and Brentwood and El Cerrito as well is another one. Now in El Cerrito, because of the climate in the East Bay, summertime, you don't see the sun until 10 or 11 in the morning. So it's cool. We used in the bathhouse, we used a radiant heat. Very easy to maintain. Once the temperature of the slab is up, it stays there. And it's very easy to heat. But in a place where it's that cool, it works very well. But with that, we were able to avoid mechanical ventilation by developing convection currents using that warm base. Keeps it dry, keeps it fresh, keeps it comfortable without the additional energy. Galt and Brentwood both, because they're more out into the valley, the hot summer days. We really took advantage of the convection that we were able to develop. And we've had to have no mechanical ventilation in either of them. And Galt is going on 11 years old, 12 years old. One thing to consider is Brentwood, we came back and added cogeneration, which is a little micro turbine generator, but they had a 40-acre park to light, power up. So the cogen became very effective there. Byproduct of cogeneration is heat. So they heat their pools for free, or for the cost of their electricity, which they generate themselves. So there are a lot of options.
One of the things we're learning is when natural gas gets to about $1 a therm, and ours is just over that here. With my last look at my last bill, the payoff for photo is about 6 years. So we'll take a look at that solar heating for the facility there, and we'll look at that cost-benefit analysis and bring that back to the council and decide whether or not to go. Cogeneration again. What happens? You use natural gas, you generate electricity. The byproduct is heat. You heat up the water. You use the electricity, whatever you have surplus, you sell off to your local provider, and so that's a way of doing that too. So we're not exactly sure how that would go, but we're definitely trying to. One of the things that our goal would be to have at least a large percentage of the aquatic park open from March through October. And you close down for the winter months. And the facilities that are doing that are generally getting about 75% to 80% cost recovery on their programs at that particular point. And if you look at Livermore, which we didn't even include, that was a different group, but as a group, the mayor and I went out there. We were out there December, early December, and there was a 55-plus club in the water at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Cold, drizzly day.
Doing exercises on a cold, rainy day. So, if there is a need and you have large enough base of persons willing to use it, you can use it all year round. It's just a matter of where the council is going to decide does it make it cost beneficial to move it and keep it open and keep the programs open those winter months. And November and December, you really have a lot of holiday activities going on and a few other things. So that's why most of them close at the end of October and then open up again at the beginning of March and close it down for about 4 months. So, but those are all things that we'll run through the council as we move through the development landscape.
Further questions? If not, some direction?
I'd move to adopt resolution 2007 next number, authorizing city manager to execute a contract for aquatics community center schematic design and master plan with NTD Stickler.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's swim. Let's go.
Let's go swimming. Item B, adopt resolution 2007, next to number, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for downtown plaza development design with RRM Design Group.
Thank you, Mayor. And tonight we have Warren McClung, who has lots of experience here. RRM Design Group, which will be doing a presentation tonight, is the architect of our downtown streetscape program and our award-winning downtown revitalization program. As the council may know, we did receive some T money, and that's in excess of $500,000 for the development of our downtown plaza, and those are federal funds. We're doing the environmental right now. As well as, as the council knows, we have the Rural 20 project, which is the undergrounding of the overhead utilities in the alleyways. You passed a resolution requiring PG&E to finish that project no later than December 31st of 2008. So it's time and it's getting appropriate for us to make sure that we start moving forward on the downtown project, plaza project, so we can be ready to move forward as PG&E is clearing out of the way. So again, we have Warren McClung here from RRM Design Group, and he's going to talk a little bit about the next two phases that comes after master plan and schematic plan. Then you go into a design, development, and construction documents, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. So we're really getting a good education here about the 4 different phases of a project, or 5, which include construction. So, Warren?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Warren McClung, RRM Design Group. This is actually really good that the way Michael set this up, where the gentleman before me talked about conceptual design. You've all been through that in the plaza, and that was when we worked with you guys to do the. Can we go back? I hit the wrong button here. There we go.
This is one of those projects that, as an example, went longer than 60 days. Huh?
Yes.
Or as an example he made.
4 years and 60 days or something like that.
I was thinking about that when he was talking about that earlier. So. Sorry to interrupt, but.
Well, that's a good point, though, because that's also the way I proposed our next step, was because of that, to give us a design development phase that kind of gets everybody's head back into the project and make some decisions and review some critical decisions that were made during the master plan. The master plan phase up here is what we did to produce this document. And a lot of you know the process that we went through with that. There were meetings of the committee, there were public presentations, and basically the master plan establishes the vision. The next step, you'll find in architecture, engineering, landscape architecture, the design professionals name the phases a little different, and they overlap a little differently. I would say what was it Tal? Yes. What Tal described as the schematic design phase really starts to fall into what we call design development phase. The concept was developed in the master plan. That's where we established the vision. In the design development phase, we refine that vision, and then once the vision is refined, we go in construction documents, which communicates the vision, in this case to the contractors, to let them know how to build the project, and then the construction phase implements the vision. I'm going to go over a little bit about each one of these steps, just backing up to where we did the master plan. During the master planning, you saw some of the diagrams that were presented in the earlier presentation. Many of you were in this process. That's where we explored the ideas. We established the general functions in the program for the project, the organization of space, the general character, preliminary materials and product selections, and what we resulted with was basically an illustrative plan. And that's what's in this document that we call the master plan. There we go. General functions, just to give you an idea, the master plan, the general functions were what goes in it. Parking was a big issue, so I'm sorry, I'm not used to your pointers. Can you back it up one? There we go. You know, parking was a big issue, so that was one of the major functions we accommodated. Pedestrian connection from the corner over here at 33 through the plaza over to the theater area was a major function, and we went through various ideas on how to accommodate those things. We also, in the master plan, we did some preliminary research on materials and kind of got a feel for the character that you all were wanting to see on the plaza, and made some preliminary ideas, but certainly not final selections by any means. We're at a master plan. There's a lot more decisions to be made. And like I said, the master plan yielded this illustrative drawing and the master plan document itself. A design development refines that vision. It resolves outstanding design issues, integrates additional ideas. It has been 4 years. Has there been any other thoughts that would augment the program or maybe take away from the program and that we would want to kind of mold and reshape the design? And I'm not talking about wholesale design change. I'm just talking about the tweaks that come about after a 4-year lag, after more thought's been put into it, and after we discover more things about the project. It's also during this design development that we would coordinate with PG&E and their design process that they're in the middle of right now to underground utilities. We'd solve technical issues. And I'm not talking about solving them to say, here's exactly how to build it, but we solve them enough that we know we can build what we're talking about, that this kind of size base will really work, and the grades will really work, but it's not enough grades that the contractor can build it. It's basically getting from a document like this to a set of drawings like this, and then a book of specifications like that that tell the contractor how to build. In between there's this intermediate step, which is an abbreviated set of technical drawings that to a lot of people look like construction drawings, but there's still not enough information to actually build the project. But it's certainly enough information to prove that we've got a workable solution. And it's also during this phase that we can really nail down the budget. 4 years have gone by, we really need to look at that. A lot's happened in the construction industry, and by going through that, solving the technical issues, we're able to refine the budget and then define the phasing. In design development, a few of the things that I mentioned, outstanding design issues. You know, we have a water feature. What exactly is that going to be? Is it going to be in? Is it going to be out? Is it going to be provided for? Provisions made for the future? We need to look at that, and we need a firm understanding of that before we prepare construction drawings. So we make those decisions and incorporate them into the design development documents. I'll just run through these. The central feature here. Is it still the, this little central plaza? Do we still want the statue of, I guess it's General Sharp is the name of it? But you know their local history?
Thought it was of me, or no?
It could have been. We could arrange that, though. See, now that's why we do design development.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
The horse fountain.
It was the horse fountain at
The
Pioneer
one that's in the
Park.
park, yeah. The
Yeah.
horse fountain.
But I thought I read something about General Sharp.
They've only lived here all their lives.
I don't remember General Sharp.
I don't think General Sharp.
I'm making it up. I'm testing y'all.
I don't think General Sharp.
So that we need to look at that. There's been the proposal to have some sort of recognition feature for veterans, and we talked about down in this area, but is that actually the best place for it? Maybe that's more of a central element, or maybe it gets integrated up here. That discussion needs to be had. We don't know what to do with construction documents unless we introduce these new design ideas and integrate them properly into the master plan. The historic Yancey building, there's provisions in the master plan for it to go down here. Is it really going to go there? Do we really still want it there? Or is there another venue for that particular building? Does it fit here? Does it make sense? That's the kind of thing we need to decide firmly in design development, because it definitely has an impact on what we put in our construction drawings. Relationship to adjacent properties, that's a big one, because it's a plaza that has, we have buildings abutting it here, but there's a gap in property. The building wall's not necessarily right on the property line. there's, 2 or 3 feet of space between the edge of our property line and a building. Got an interface with the buildings here and here. We have interface with vacant, or not vacant, but unused portions or undeveloped portions of the adjacent parcels here. We really need to nail down right now in design development how we're going to handle those interfaces. Is there going to be any participation with the adjacent owners? These example drawings here that I brought in are from the Oakdale downtown plaza that we completed a couple of years ago. And there are a lot of these little sliver things. We had to go to each one of those property owners and either get an agreement that can be incorporated into the project and the finishes of paving and planting could extend to their building, or they had to be excluded. And we had differences of opinion amongst the various people. We had things that we wanted to attach to the adjacent buildings. We basically had to get I guess it would be an easement to do that, and an agreement with them. So that needs to be decided in design development, so you don't get down into construction drawings and aren't able to build what you want to build because there's these little slivers at the edges. And then setting priorities. That obviously leads tied into budget and phasing. The product of design development is, these are some of the major features: preliminary layout plan, preliminary grading and drainage plan. That really is a huge one, and if you're interested, I could share with you the evolution of a preliminary grading plan to a final grading plan. Every form they set for concrete, for pavers, whatever it is in that plaza, has to have spot elevations. They can't just go out there and say, we want this area flat. Nothing's flat. Water has to flow. Solving those things during design development to the extent that we're comfortable with them starts to also drive some of the design on the surface. Preliminary lighting plan, preliminary landscape plan, and then this is really where we finalize our selection of materials and products to be used on the project. Construction documents, they communicate the vision to the contractor. And they can be voluminous. We went from an illustrative plan with a little bit of narrative text here to 21 sheets of line drawings, technical drawings for design development here, to 57 sheets of construction drawings here. And then technical specifications, a booklet, several hundred pages. I mean, there's a lot that goes into, but the basics are drawings, technical specifications, and then contract requirements. It's telling the contractor, providing the information they need to build the project. We've made 95+% of the decisions related to design in here. There will still be design decisions during construction drawings, but there'll be a lot less because we're really producing documents to communicate to the contractor. We've already communicated with you and with the public and resolved and settled on a design. Then construction services is where we implement the vision and where our services come in as we would assist the city in managing the project during construction. We would meet regularly with the contractor, whatever was warranted based on the amount of resources the city has in terms of on-site construction management. We would supplement that. We would interpret the intent of the drawings as questions come up, and we would observe the work on those site visits and on those meetings to provide a report to the city as to how things are going. Are they staying on track? This is your insurance to to make sure your vision gets implemented the way you want it. Field changes aren't made just on the fly. So that's how we propose to get your master plan to reality. And I'm open to any questions if you're interested in seeing any of these exhibits here. I'm sure you've all seen some construction drawings and other levels of drawing, but if not knowing the composition of your council, I thought it might be helpful.
Thank you, Warren. So today, what we have before you is a proposal and a scope of work to get you through design development. The proposal does not include construction drawings. That's something that we would negotiate for after this, as well as construction services of the managing of the construction itself. So
I'd like to just make a point. I kind of went past it. The reason we proposed it that way is because, like I said, it has been 4 years since the master plan was adopted. We think going through the design development phase is going to solidify the design. Right now, we don't know exactly what's going to be constructed. Is it going to be a phase one? Is it going to be all done at once? What is the veterans recognition element? Is the water feature in or out? So it makes it really difficult to figure out what it's going to cost to do this set of drawings until we know what it is. And I really feel like the best way is that incremental steps towards the end of getting the project built, and the next step is the design development package.
So with that, staff is recommending that we move forward with this scope of work for the design development, and the cost includes survey work and a few other things, and that is Exhibit B in your package tonight. If I totaled it up right, it was $77,700.
Questions, gentlemen?
Michael, just real quick, what's the definition of a Rule 20 project?
The Rule 20 project is the PG&E undergrounding of overhead utilities.
So this is going to set that up for what PG&E has to complete.
Yeah, PG&E has to move the poles and underground their utilities before we really get going on this particular project. You don't want to make surface improvements and do anything out here and then they come and trench. So we want them to move their poles, get out of the way, and then really in 2008 we would like to foresee start doing some undergrounding here and start looking at sewer and water and storm drainage and possibly putting some of those utilities into the ground. So that way when PG&E is all cleared out, everything's cleared up, we start making surfaces improvements.
So they have until 2008 to get that complete.
They have until December 31st, 2008 to pull their poles.
I assume we're going to try to get them to do that before then?
Yes. But the project manager just retired. We got a new project manager. But we're staying on them. We introduced Warren to the new project manager, so they understand that we're moving forward with this as well.
Great.
Further questions? If not, some direction here?
I so move that we approve resolution number 2007, next number. A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract for downtown plaza development design services with RRM Design Group.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Item C, appointment of members to fill vacancies on the Architecture Review Committee.
Thank you. We have been advertising over the last probably month and a half for any members of the community that wanted to step forward and be a part of the Architecture Review Committee. To date, we haven't received any applications from new members, but the 3 existing members did reapply and are now seeking reappointment onto that committee.
Questions? Comments? Not a motion to reappoint the 3 members?
So moved.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry about that.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Item D, presentation and request for financial support by United Way for the 211 Stanislaus Helpline.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City of Newman. First of all, I have a little story about my drive to Newman today. I missed my street coming in and kind of got a little past track and got up at the little store. And I asked a woman in the parking lot, I just need to find the city council. And she goes, oh, honey, I'll just show you where to go. Instead of telling me where to go, she got in her car, she said, follow me. And she drove down the road, took me down Main Street, brought me over here and said, now that's the Newman way. And I just wanted to thank her. Her name was Cheryl Baudet or something like that. Cheryl, anyway, thank her for getting me here on time. But it's also when you're asking for directions or if you're not really sure where you're going and sometimes you don't know where to ask or who to get directions from. That's what 211 is similar to. 211 is a utility that is 3 digits for people to call to get health and human services, information, and referral. Basically, it is, like I said, a utility, like 911 is to emergencies, 211 is to non-emergencies. About a little over a year ago, I came and presented a presentation to the council. I recognize most of you. It looks like you have a few new people, I think. I did give a presentation on 211 to ask for a letter of support to support United Way. By the way, I'm Liz Gimbel with the United Way. I'm the 211 project coordinator. And I asked you last year to write a letter of support to support the United Way to become the provider for 211. And the reason I asked for a letter of support is I needed to take these letters to the California Public Utilities Commission to show that we had a collaborative community support. And the reason, again, I had to take this to the commission is because 211 is a utility, and it's also governed by the Federal Communications Commission. Now, we're not the first county to consider doing a 211. Right now, there's 65% of the entire United States has coverage for 211 service. There's 212 active systems across the United States. And with California, we have most of Southern California is up and operating. This year brought on San Francisco and also, last year was San Francisco and this year was Santa Clara counties. And we are hoping that the East Bay area, some of the North Bay might come up. Sacramento, Fresno, Bakersfield, Kern, and Monterey are all hopefuls for 2007, along with Stanislaus County, which right now we are looking at summer. I'm not going to commit to a date at this point. One of the reasons why I cannot commit to an exact date of this year is because the board of the United Way is looking to have a 3-year funding commitment for the 211. We want to make sure that everything has been hit before we can go ahead and say we're going to go ahead and launch. Now, tonight, just to give you an idea of why people might call 211, we are operating an information referral currently, meaning United Way is, Monday through Friday. And that's nice, but during business hours isn't always when the people who need help would call. Now, for instance, a lot of the people who call 211s in other areas have different reasons. Maybe they might be being arrested. There's a family with the person who's being arrested, doesn't speak English, it's 2 in the morning. Maybe they're traveling through, or maybe they need a shelter, who knows? Sometimes an officer doesn't always know how to help these people in this time of need. By giving them a card that says call 211, either in Spanish or English, that officer can go on with his work or her work. Some other scenarios, somebody might call 211 to get information on how to get an aging parent some transportation to make sure they can get to the doctors or the pharmacy or to get groceries or what have you. But the information referral that we're currently operating, the top 5 reasons why people call is to get either help, housing, shelter, rent, utility assistance, or food, just basic needs. And 85% of the population that calls us have I'm just getting over some really bad allergy problems. Anyway, 85% of the people who contact our existing information referral with United Way have an income of less than $20,000 annually. And a household income of less than 30 would represent 93% of the existing callers. So again, the target is to help people who are in need of more services find either the health and human services that they need. Also, it acts as a liaison, as a one point of contact for all agencies to contact us to make sure that we can provide the information as well to them and keep their databases up to date. So with this, keeping in mind that United Way is looking for full funding, majority of the funding we're still in negotiations with, but the Children's and Families Commission will be the largest supporter of 211 at about half of the project. The annual budget for the first year is $445,000 on up to about $535,000 after 3 years. After the Children and Families Commission makes their commitments next month, hopefully, we have also had commitments from the City of Modesto, from City of Houston, Patterson. Ceres is on board. We need to go through a final process in their council. Houston or Waterford's on board. We're going back to Oakdale, and we're still negotiating with getting appointments with Turlock. So we should have 100% commitment out of the cities as we move forward. That's our goal.
Has the county committed?
Yes, the county,
Okay.
and that's the next thing. And thank you. The Board of Supervisors
checking.
has put in $30,000 from the Community Services Agency. and a potential commitment for some more if needed, but you didn't hear me say that right now. I have the right people telling me this, though. So we are going to be going back to the county probably fairly soon. So a little heads up on that one. But anyway, we have some other health care foundations that have committed. I do have knowledge of a really nice grant that has come through. I'm not at the liberty to announce it yet because they want to announce it, but we're very pleased with their support, and we're also looking at some other healthcare foundations, some other local, technical, and whatever possibilities we can to fund 211. But it looks like we will be moving forward with the project, providing everything comes through. Now, the United Way's commitment, or request, I'm sorry, to the City of Newman is based on a percentage of population, and it comes out to be 1,086 per year for a 3-year commitment of 3,258, I think that comes out to be. Really pretty nominal, considering how much we can help the people here in your city. And that'll actually, I didn't actually tell you some of the other advantages of 211. 24/7 coverage, 365. I mean, every day of the year, any time of day, people will be able to call 211, free of charge from anywhere of a landline in Stanislaus County. And that will also be available in live translations in up to 140 languages with TTY available. Also, our call specialists are trained by the Alliance of Information Referral Services, and it is anticipated that all new staffing will be bilingual, both Spanish and English, and those who will be answering the calls. We will be partnering with 211 Ventura for some of the round-the-clock coverage after hours and weekends. And how that will work is we have a remote database for Ventura to call, or to use. When people call 211 locally, they will get the local flair of Stanislaus County. 211 answers it in Ventura, takes our call, and then provides them our database. Now, if there's any opportunity to bring 211 completely back into the county, we will. We have looked at a lot of resources to do so, and at this point, it's not cost prohibited for the amount of calls that is anticipated for the after hours and weekends. But as soon as we possibly can bring it back, we will. So, with that, do you have any questions for me that I can answer?
Questions for Liz?
Liz, where is the call center now? It's going to be in Stanislaus County?
Yes, the call center that we have currently, the information referral, is at the United Way in Modesto, and that will remain the same call center with expansions as we move forward with the new phone systems, higher technology to allow for it. Just so I can acknowledge why we really need to have some of this higher technology besides some of the obvious, a secondary reason or purpose for 211 is to double as a emergency preparedness communication device. In the event of a disaster or hazards affecting Stanislaus County, people could call 211 to get information. For instance, if there was an evacuation process here in Newman, people could call 211. As long as you provide us the information, we can provide it to the people, and that'll help eliminate some of your calls to 911 as well. So.
How many calls are you expecting?
We anticipate over 13,000 calls our first year, with up to 25,000 after the third year. And to give you a correlation of how we are right now, our call volume is down about 2,100 per year where we are right now. But with the, we have a lot of money being put into the marketing of 211, and also the identity of 211 is so much easier for people to remember, that we anticipate bringing in 4.5% utilization rate from the whole county. And that would put us at about 13,000 calls.
What type of staffing levels might you have?
The staffing really, I had this question once before, and I want to make sure I clarify it. The total staffing's about 7, but on the phones at any given time is usually between 3 to 5, depends upon the time of day and how it's going to factor out which year. That would obviously go up if our call volume exceeds, and then we would have to work into new funding needs at that time. But it would not necessarily be coming back from the cities. What I'm asking for right now is, it's actually kind of nice on your behalf, is like no matter how much we grow, we're still asking the same amount from you for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Further questions? If not, some direction?
I move we support them for the amount that they requested.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Liz, thank you very
I
much.
greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor, on behalf of the council, what I will do is write a letter initiating that the council has unanimously agreed to do a 3-year funding of the 2-on-1 program for not to exceed $1,086 for the next 3 fiscal years, and I will pin that, set that up for your signature, Mayor, and then we'll send that off to 2-on-1. And then what we'll do is we'll just make sure that we program in that in the next 3 fiscal budgets.
Also, just as a note, obviously because we're having such a big collaborative of efforts of funding, the least amount of invoicing or billing that we have to give individual funding resources makes the project a lot easier and smoother. So if at all possible, we can either do, one lump or quarterly invoices. That would be more preferred. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Take that out of the city manager's budget.
And if you see Cheryl, tell her thanks for getting me here too.
Yes. Thank you.
I just thought that was so sweet.
We're a friendly town.
Yeah.
We don't take you home. You gotta find your way home.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Item E, consider for approval the Stanislaus County Annual Action Plan for fiscal year 07-08 and the consolidated plan for fiscal year 07 through 12 and close the 30-day public comment period.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have our Assistant Planner, Ms. Stephanie Garcia.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. On March 27th, I presented the draft consolidated plan and annual action plan for your review and consideration for approval tonight. We also opened the 30-day public comment period. The 2 plans outline the short and long-term goals of the Stanislaus County CDBG Consortium. The annual action plan fiscal year 07-08 outlines the immediate plans for each member of the consortium in the next fiscal year. The consolidated plan fiscal years 07 through 12 outlines more long-term goals and policies for each member over the next 5 years. Particular projects mentioned in the 07-08 annual action plan for the city of Newman include infrastructure projects, the Pioneer Park Rehabilitation Project, and sidewalk improvements on Yolo Street. The consolidated plan is geared more towards policies and goals for the consortium, including but not limited to increasing the supply of affordable housing, promoting homeownership, community development, and homelessness solutions. Because we are a member of the 6-member CDBG consortium, every member has to approve these plans to allow Stanislaus County, the administrator of our consortia, to take it to the board for approval. In addition to these 2 drafts, we're also closing a public comment period tonight. Due to scheduling, technically we're at the 29th day, so by law I can take comments until tomorrow, as advised by the county. But they said we had to get it approved today for you guys.
Have you received any comments?
No, not one. And we held a public meeting February 16th, letting the public know that this process was being initiated, and we had no comments received either. Is there any questions I may answer?
Questions for Stephanie? If not, some direction?
Mayor, if I may, do we need to conduct a public hearing tonight? Number 1 says.
They told me it's a 30-day comment period.
Okay. So we're just looking for action there.
Okay. Action.
Okay. I so move for approval of the Stanislaus County Annual Action Plan, fiscal year 07-08, consolidated plan, fiscal year 07-12, and closed 30-day public comment period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Stephanie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item F, adopt resolution number 2007, next to number, declaring certain personal property surplus personal property, and authorizing disposal or sale of property. Got a lot of property here. And transferring found property to the city of Newman as allowed by state law.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today regarding the property disposal of surplus and approval for that. Staff recommends that the City Council approve the request of the city departments to surplus obsolete or unrepairable city property. The background is the city from time to time has property that becomes obsolete, is not repairable, or has been replaced, or the city has no use for the property. In order for the city to legally dispose of this property, it must be declared surplus by the City Council. Each city department has surveyed their property, and a list was developed of broken, obsolete, and no longer needed property by the city. The property will be disposed of by a host of legal remedies such as sales, auction, donation, destruction, or taken to a refuse site. The police department's list is made up of found property that has been held by the department over the legal time limit of 120 days. Due diligence has been made to locate the owner of this property. The property has become the property of the city, however, no department has use for this property at this time. The analysis is there may be a minor cost associated with the disposal of certain items such as computer monitors. This cost will be offset by the sale of obsolete property. Any funds generated will be placed back into the city's general fund. We have a minimal fiscal impact for disposal, which should be offset by the sale of the property, such as propertyroom.com that we've used in the past. Attachment A shows found property, and that would be in my list here, the third one, attachment A, and I believe you have a copy of this. And that lists the bicycles that we have at this time. Attachment B on the list shows the police department and public works surplus property or property that is no longer in use. The police department has a 2005 Crown Vic, as we're all aware. It was a total loss. And with that vehicle, it had certain items that the officers used on a daily basis to perform their job, such as the AR-15 rifle, the Remington shotgun, the laptop system, which is a communication system which allows all the information to be relayed to the officers, and also for them to be able to perform their job effectively. Back and forth system, and the radar unit that we use. Public Works has several vehicles of their own. They have a 1982 Ford truck, and they have a 1982 second Ford truck, and the third is a 88 white Chevrolet. Any questions at this time?
Johnny, there's, and maybe the chief can answer, the radar unit or the radar trailer that's been deemed not usable. Is there any reason why that can't be placed on the list and disposed of?
At this time, I don't have that answer. But
Okay, that's fine.
I
I think we can. It was obtained under a grant,
Yes,
but if it's
yes,
not
it was.
usable, I know of an agency that can use it for their EBOC training, and it can be repaired. So is there some way we can look in and see if we can dispose of that? If that be the case, rather than let it sit where it is.
We will definitely do some research and definitely get back to you on the next city council meeting.
Further questions? I'm sure those 5 burnt items are going to be, you get the most for those.
I thought the chief said the car was repairable.
One charge.
What do you mean by repairable?
Yeah.
You should have put down one slightly charred.
One slightly, yeah, slightly used.
Property.com made.
Hey, it's an 05, it's not that old, huh?
That's true. Very limited.
Blue Book, there you go. We'll take low Blue Book on it. Any further questions? Not some direction.
I move to adopt resolution number 2007, next in number, declaring a certain personal property surplus property, and authorizing disposal or sale of property and transferring found property to the city of Newman as allowed by state law.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Johnny. Reminds me of that commercial. I think it's an insurance commercial, one slightly used car on TV. Isn't it a flooded car or pulling it out of the water or something like that? So we could do the same thing.
New upholstery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Item G.
You sell that one.
Yeah. Adopt resolution number 2007, next number, implementing parking violations by resolution.
This is actually the third portion that we've addressed this kind of issue, and this is now the resolution that we're looking at for the parking part of it is kind of in a couple of phases here. First, we're looking at those items that are currently codified under our municipal code that are not on Highway 33 or on N Street. We also have, as you can see in Exhibit A here, other items that are, those are items that are that are currently there that we're retaining now under a resolution. Looking under B, I believe. It's all under the one section there, but we're also looking at codifying other things there that were not in the books, such as the handicap parking and those issues. So those will now be handled by resolution and are codified by by adopting this resolution. This also includes the 3 new ones that we were looking at originally, which kind of brought this to light, which would be the no parking on Hardin Road on both sides there, and then the Sherman Parkway issue as well. So that pretty much would cover all of the parking issues that were brought up by council, some that were brought up by staff, and I'll be able to answer any kind of questions you may have regarding this, but there are quite a few sections in here.
I think the one area that Councilman Martina talked about already on Hills Ferry Road, I noticed this morning on the way out, there was 3 cars parked.
That's correct. Yeah,
That's
already.
Is that yours? Somebody's calling?
No, it's his battery.
Pacemaker.
The nice thing too is doing this by resolution,
it's not nice.
we can start addressing these things immediately. By ordinance, we'd have to wait an additional 30 days, so.
Any other questions for the chief?
I move to adopt resolution number 2007, next number, implementing parking violations by resolution.
Did anybody want to comment on this matter? I'm sorry. No?
Thank you.
Do we have a second then? I'm sorry for interrupting.
I'll second that motion.
sorry.
Were you finished yet? You make your full motion?
Yeah, I think I did.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Civ-
Mayor, if it just as the council will get on ordering those signs immediately and moving forward with the installation as soon as they can.
Supervisor DeMartini, do you have any? Welcome, as you always, to the meeting. I'll give you 3.5 minutes. No.
Take an hour, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor Fantasia, council members. Really don't have very much for you tonight. I would say you got off a lot cheaper on that 211 emergency number than the county did.
So you guys got the big bucks, that's why. So.
Well, 89% of what we get goes to Sacramento. So we just have enough to just squeeze by. But we did contribute, I guess, $30,000 to that. Now, the one thing, though, that I think is worth bringing up tonight is that the healthcare task force is on track. And, of course, it will be here Thursday night at the council chambers. We have county staff and myself have done some work on that to see what's feasible. As far as we can tell, we have full participation from all 3 cities, Newman, Patterson, and Gustine, in the healthcare districts. This is only the first of probably many meetings it will take to try and put something like this together. But at this meeting, we would hope that we would get a consensus. What I'm looking for in the first meeting is that we realize that we have a shortage of medical facilities in this area. If we come to that consensus, and that we will work together as a region to try and get something built. If we get that much done, I'll be happy. And then in the future meetings, we will try and, assuming that we can agree on those items, that we will try and come up with a facilities plan, financing, and all that. And the county has done a fair amount of work on that already for future meetings. So I'm anticipating a good meeting and full cooperation. So this is a major project for this area. So we're anxious to finally get it started. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Look forward to it on Thursday. Thank you, Jim. We have to review that noise ordinance. That reminds me.
Mike's wife. That's illegal.
Staff reports this evening. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. Today I would like to announce that we have concluded our recruitment period and first interview for our CSO position. That's a new position for the city. CSO stands for Community Service Officer. It will be a person who's going to be both community service officer and dealing with cold calls from the police department, parking issues, and other issues that don't necessarily deem a full sworn officer to report to those activities. And also the person will double as a code enforcement officer, and there'll be some animal control and a few other things. So on Friday of last week, we interviewed 11 candidates, and we have 3 very good candidates that we'll be doing a second interview on later this week, and hopefully making an offer next week to our first community service officer position here in the city of Newman. I think it's going to be a very good position for the community, for the police department, and go a long ways towards this code enforcement program that we are initiating and moving forward with. I want to thank the council for first authorizing that position and allowing us to do that. I think we're going to get a lot of value out of that position.
Mike, what kind of training? Are they going to be going right to a training program?
They will. In fact, Miss Johnson, I forget what her first name was, from Ripon, who's the supervisor CSO from that community, offered to allow our CSO officer to go and train with her department for a while, because they do a lot of the same tasks that we do here. She was so impressed with at least one of our candidates that she took the phone number for that particular candidate and said, look, I'm not going to hire her away from you. But failed to hire her. She was going to make a phone call to her. So she was that impressed with at least one of our candidates. So.
How many do they have? How many officers do they have?
Ripon, you mean?
No, Ripon has, I believe, 5, maybe a supervisor and 3 or 4 CSOs. So they sit around 4 or 5 total CSOs in that department.
And in the population group?
I don't know offhand, maybe 14,000? Yeah, 14,000.
I'm equivalent to a CSO for the city of Watsonville, and there's 7 of us, and it's police officers that will respond to suspect complaints. And I do investigation work, CSI, so there's patrols,
We really see this as a position that could evolve in our community, and as time permits, we'd like to see this type of position. Hopefully our first person would grow into a supervisor, and then we continue to fill in as needed. There's many different aspects of the community service officer: collection of evidence, vehicle abatement, animal control. It's a public relations type position. You're getting out there, you're being a face for the community. So there's lots of different opportunities for our community to take the CSO position. So that's why it's real critical on this first one. We get a good one, a good candidate that'll take this position and make it evolve into something that maybe we don't even envision right now, and they can take it to that whole next level.
If we have additional CSO officers, does that alleviate the need for additional police force officers, or is this in conjunction with it to?
Yeah, you don't want to give up police officer positions for CSOs. That's just a supplement to the department to do the I don't want to say non-critical, but it's going to relieve the officer from having to deal with the burden tasks of code enforcement issues and dog issues and those kind of things. But I would seriously hope that we wouldn't try to supplement our police department with CSOs in lieu of police officers.
And that's not the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. It's just that it's so hard to get additional officers. This will give them more field time.
Yeah, well, and this position doesn't require the certification training that a police officer has. However, sending them to train with Ripon and/or Los Banos and/or series, whatever, to get a good feel of what it's about is a good idea, and I would strongly recommend that we do that, and then set up policies and those kinds of things as well.
Ideally, it would be great if at some point in time Newman evolved to a location where you had at least one CSO on every shift. And it takes some of the burden off of the officers and allows them to perform these other these more critical functions. And and CSO is a very important piece of that puzzle, and they do a very important job. But, you know, it frees up our officers, it reduces the amount of stress, because maybe they have an opportunity here now just to come up for air before they have to roll to the next call, because the CSO was able to fill in and finish out the report for them and those types of things. So it's a supplement, but it's not a replacement.
Great.
More questions? I would like to thank Sergeant Lemus. I thought he did a great job today. Chief Brady brought him in today, and generally, property surplus is something you'll see on your consent agenda, but it was an item that is an opportunity to get Sergeant Lemus out here and get him out before the community and do presentations and those types of things. So I thought that was a good idea by the chief. Tuesday, May 1st, we have Tom Brengoniger coming in here at 4 o'clock for our goal-setting workshop. That's a week from today. So we'll probably just talk to you a little bit about dinner and things so we can just kind of move straight through. Again, I'm meeting with Tom tomorrow. I'll put something in my weekly report to you, but we're looking about 4 hours. 4 o'clock, yes. And then lastly, I wanted to invite the council and to the public on Monday from 11 to 1 here in the council chambers. We'll be having an open house so that our community members can do a thank you for Chief Brady and thank him for all of his service and everything he's contributed to our community. And so that'll also be in the newspaper running today on Thursday's index, inviting everybody out for that.
11 to 1, Mike?
11 to 1, that's correct. It's just kind of it's an open house forum for people to come in and meet and greet him and thank him personally. And that's open to the complete public, the business community and residential community. So with that, I'll turn it over to my other members of staff.
Other staff reports?
Since nobody's jumping to the podium, I guess I'll start. Well, I'd just like just one item I'd like to kind of bring up is basically we have the FDES Pentecost parades that will be coming up on May 26th and 27th. We've already had the request in for some time. It's been honored. We're looking at it takes minimal force to be able to accommodate their needs, and it's always a good event. So, and secondly, I'd just like to thank, this is my last council meeting. I'd like to thank the council and the citizens for almost 11 years of fun, because I can just tell you this has been the best job I've ever had. Enjoyed every minute of it, and people have touched my lives, and it's just been great. So I want to thank the council. I don't think there's anybody on here that was hired me. So, but over the years, it's just been great working with every council member and this council as well. So I thank you.
Thank you, Chief. It's been a privilege working with you, Chief. Ernie?
I just have one quick informational item. The utility companies are out there on YOLO, relocating their utilities, the power poles, and so hopefully by the end of the week or early next week, they'll be out of the way and we can start on our sidewalk infill project. Any questions?
Trees.
Yes. Okay.
Your tree's still dead?
It's still dead.
Oh.
I'm just wondering, Eric, how that works, the process. Oh, go stick it.
It helps to contact the councilman, usually get things.
Yeah. Jesus. I tried that.
Call your gardener or
It
something.
didn't even
huh?
help me.
No,
I'm
it's-
just
it's-
curious how the process goes. I don't want people, the white birch that I want in my front yard, I don't want people to say that was a special one. I'm kidding, Eric. Whatever trees you put in, but what's the process? Because honestly, we have a bunch of trees that are the cities in my neighborhood, right within, and my lovely tree's been dead really for 2 years.
We have been replacing some of those trees along in that subdivision. Not all of them. We didn't have any monies budgeted for that particular item, but we have some proposing some for the coming budget. We some of the trees, I can't recall how many have been replaced, but some have been
Really?
there.
Okay.
And we're following up on those. Again, I've been working with the Public Works Superintendent regarding those trees also. But we used to have, in the past, I think up to about $1,000 budgeted to be able to replace trees and to be able to put in new street trees. I believe about 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of the trees that were in the newer subdivisions became the responsibility of the property owners, and that's when we started cutting back on those. But I do realize that those trees there along Creek Canyon and Walnut Court and Walnut Street, that those are the street trees, city street trees.
Would I get in trouble if I were to pull that out and
Absolutely.
put my own in?
No, we a lot of the people we've had. We used to keep a street tree list at City Hall because we had a lot of requests for street trees. And so what we did is we would budget some money and replace them as they came, and they'd have a priority list, tree list. However, some of the people didn't want to wait, so they would come and ask and say, if I buy the tree, will the Public Works Department put it in for me? And we said we'd be more than happy to do that.
Oh, great, that's
So-
even better. And I also want to, you're a man of your word. I walked by Carlson Park there,
Yes,
tables are up there, it looks beautiful.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Questions for Ernie? Thank you, Ernie. Ted, I'd be happy to donate a cactus from my front yard if you'd like to put it there. And
Yeah, you and your
when I forget
cactus.
to water
Your
them, they
cactus
always
is
look
big.
good.
What are you kidding?
Now they're blooming right now. You gotta
they
check it
do?
out. Yeah, come by. I think Stephanie already did her report. No other staff here, I guess.
They're videoing.
They're videoing. They're learning. Okay. Items from council members. Mike.
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Bob.
No, just think we're going to get our CSO officer, and I think that's going to add so much to the community. Things that you can't even think of in terms of, that our city's going to look so much nicer, and it's going to free up officers to do other things that they should be doing rather than doing the things that a CSO officer could do. So I'm very excited about this. And if you look around our city, you're going to see that they have a lot of things to do initially. But anyway, I think it's going to be great for the city. That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Keep an eye on Ted is going to be one of the things we're going to have to do. Sounds like it. but-
Yeah, we'll get it.
Ted.
No, but I just think, I'm talking about excitement. I mean, the future of Newman is unbelievable. I mean, with the plaza and the aquatic center, I mean, it's just going to be, it's already a neat place to live, but gosh, give us another 5 years or whatever, and it's just going to be phenomenal. So,
You'll have a new tree by that
maybe.
time.
Yeah, Ernie will then come back.
Everybody be
Plant
happy.
the dead one that I bought 2 years before.
Jeez. Thank you, Ted.
Thank
Ed?
I have nothing this evening.
Nothing? I just wanted to mention that myself and Ted yesterday attended the NIMS safety training class, and our other, Ed already has participated with that with his role in Merced County. Bob and Mike, it's something you must go to, so there's going to be another couple dates coming up, so Mike Meyer will sure sign you up for those. It's very important. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for coming, and we're going to go into closed session. Thank you so much.
Must have